Hey there. What's up, everybody? Welcome to The World According to Carp. It was actually Garp. It was a movie in the 80s. I was going to say this is the most tremendous, wonderful newscast ever. I haven't decided what I'm going to title this or how I'm going to start this. I tried to start this video outside, and I made a joke about the sirens and how they always come up or the dogs start barking. I got about 2 minutes into it, and the neighbors let the dogs out and they started barking. it's just life in the city or suburbs, whatever. And I actually hate it. I'd love to live in the country on my own, but that's beside the point. What I really wanted to talk about here was a variety of subjects. And I have a lot of different ideas in my head, of course. I'm always thinking about things. And I'll pick usually one idea that stands out to me, and then I'll expound on it and do some research, and then I'll make a video. But this is more of I'll probably title something as like the best newscast or the most important news, as a joke or a tribute rather to the idea that whatever the media is providing us is really subjective as to what's actually important. Sure, they're going to report on the Golden Globes. Fucking whatever. I know that that's what's popular. Fine, so be it. The rest of the world can watch the news and listen to media. I have to, pick and choose and seek out good media. And there are no good media sites because my own interests are completely unique to me, just like yours are to you. So there's always going to be something we disagree with. So this video will be multifaceted. I'm going to first talk about a few issues that are going on in the world that I think are important. And then I'm going to get into some discussions about drugs, about trust in society, and then a couple other things. So, no point in wasting any time. The first thing I want to talk about is the virus. I mentioned this, I think I made a video, the last one I made was about 2 weeks ago. And I think it was the day after I made that my wife brought home this little bucket of slime for the kids. And it comes with 4 dinosaurs. Somebody left it at her work for days or whatever, and it was missing a couple of pieces, but they said it had 4 dinosaurs, 1 squishy ball, and 1 nubby ball. And this is the nubby ball. It's a freaking virus. It's crazy. I was like thinking about how just, coincidental it is that that popped up. But at the time I made that video, I think there was like 3,000 deaths. Or 3,000 cases, sorry. And now it's 20 times worse over 2 weeks. And it's funny because I'm not the type of alarmist to sit here and say, oh my God, we're all screwed. If I get sick, I get sick. My family will likely be fine, even if we do get sick. In fact, the irony is, I try to protect my kids, tell them to wash their hands and everything. It was about a week ago that my kids came home. They were both sick, all out of school all week. My one kid, he's been coughing like crazy. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's a standard virus. And I understand how viruses operate as far as, what a coronavirus really is. It's just that we don't have the immunity to any components of this particular strain. But that's fine. Most people will survive, whatever, 2 or 3% death rate. Even if the whole world gets it, that would be horrible. But like I said, in 1918, 3 to 5% of the entire world population died at that time. And that was before we had airplanes. But we're much wiser now. We closed off borders. If we hadn't done anything at all, we would have been a lot worse off. But still, shame on the Chinese government. This is showing a huge lack of transparency on their part that we already knew. And I find it kind of humorous because you've got all these U.S. companies and government agencies that really want to cater to China because they make so much money from them. And so they don't want to say anything bad about it. And when the U.S. said we're not allowing people to fly in from Wuhan, China said, oh, you're being racist and causing panic. And it's like, fuck you guys. China, I'm sorry, but we don't trust your government. You guys are like, the worst type of snakes. I get it. You want to run the government the way you want to run it. You want to shut up anybody who talks about it, but if you're arresting doctors for speaking out and trying to protect their neighbors, then you're doing a vast disservice to any type of communism, that you may think is going to work for your country. Anyhow, all that aside, the virus is pretty messed up. I think 64,000 people are infected, 1,700 dead now, and even worse than that, there's a lot of doctors that are dying over there. And that's pretty messed up too. Sucks for them. But life goes on, and it'll probably pass and we'll be fine. But if not, we should be aware and see how much actually it's going to slow down commerce in the meantime. For the average person, it's not going to mean much if you're an American citizen. On to the next piece of news. Pardon me. Vaping. You know, a lot of you know that I've tried to quit vaping. I should say I'm in the process of quitting vaping. And I have actually bought a bottle of this mild tobacco flavor because that's all they had. Washington banned vape flavors 6 months ago. Last Friday they came back. And I broke down last night. I went down and I'm like, well, I've been vaping about, a quarter of what I used to vape, so I'm not too worried about it. I bought a bottle of this, the PNW Blueberry Muffin, and as soon as I vaped it, I was just like, oh my god. That's why I enjoyed vaping. And I smoked for 25 years, and I vaped for 5 years. Vaping is so much, better on my lungs. I feel way better, and yeah, it's not perfect. I want to quit inhaling anything, but, I'm a cannabis smoker too. What can you say? You've got to live your life, and that I was going to talk about that in a little bit, drug use, but I'll get to that. I want to cover these points that are on my mind. One of them is, God, Mike Bloomberg is an asshole. What a dick. I fucking hate that guy so much now. I mean, he posts ads everywhere. He spent $100 million or something on ads to post on YouTube and elsewhere. So even my kids are like, whenever they see some ad come on, they're like, oh, it's Mike. And I have ad blocker on most of my devices, but sometimes when you cast to the TV from the remote or certain ways, they come through anyway. And I'm just so sick of seeing this like totally out of touch douchebag buying his way into the presidency. And he's already, I think, in third. He's actually doing it. It's just another more evidence that Americans are dumb enough to buy into somebody who's not even debating on the stage, who hasn't even put in his face, who won't even isn't even speaking on the videos. One of them is just Obama the whole time, and him shaking hands with Obama, which was some totally irrelevant thing that happened years ago. Pretending like Obama's endorsing him. But the whole political spectrum is just a joke with what's going on right now, and I'm not going to get into it. You all know how I feel about Trump, and I'm a Sanders supporter, so it is what it is. But the point is that this Bloomberg guy is just, it's a perfect example of an out-of-touch billionaire trying to buy his way into the presidency by buying ads, and it's working. Kind of screwed up. The next subject I wanted to cover was cryptocurrency. Now, I don't want to talk about it much. I was just watching a short article, a video about OneCoin, which was this startup that was basically based on nothing. But I've been more interested in Bitcoin and other blockchain technology. I want somebody out there who is a Bitcoin supporter, not to tell me that you might be able to make money off of it, because I know a lot of people made money and a lot of people lost their asses too. You don't hear about that, but I want to know exactly what it is about cryptocurrency that makes people think that it adds value to the world. You're solving equations with computers, I get that, and it costs immense amounts of money to run these machines, to power them to, and I know a lot of people don't understand that. It's complicated shit. Of course, none of us really fully grasp it. Most of us don't. But what is the benefit it's adding to society while siphoning out huge chunks of energy? I see it as a pointless endeavor because, we need something that's more reliable. I'm not going to say silver's any better. If the shit hits the fan, we're all screwed anyway. I just found the Bitcoin to be one of those things that people just seem to be like real fanboys about. Like they're obsessed about it. It's like, hey man, we'd all like an alternative currency, but I don't need something that fluctuates 20 times its rate. The American dollar sucks because of inflation, but at least it can still buy me what I bought generally a year ago. Moving on now, that brings me to this kind of technology age that we live in. We have data and tech companies spying on us and watching us, everything we do. People willingly putting this shit in their living rooms. I'm sorry, if you have an Alexa or one of those, devices, it's bad enough that our cell phones can listen in on us or our computers, but I've always taped my cameras just to be safe. Not that it matters, but buying smart devices, I think, like this Ring doorbell system from Amazon, which the cops now can use to monitor and look for criminals. And pretty soon people are going to be, so tied into the system that they're constantly monitored themselves. Anything you say is listened to by these devices. And so I don't know where the future's going, but it's just amazing to me that people are more than willing to put out all their information to the world, to see. Even though I sit here and make videos, there are a lot of things that you don't know about me. I mean, there are a ton of things that I've never mentioned in 10 years, and I never would, because I'm smart enough to know better. And some of them you'd be probably very surprised. But, that's what makes people, wise enough to not, go out and spread bullshit on the internet, I guess. But it's not that I have anything to hide. It's rather that I just feel people shouldn't have to worry about it so much, as much as we do. Imagine living in China. They monitor everybody. It's crazy. But this brings me to really the fear of change that a lot of people have and where we're going in the future. And trust, because this was kind of the big part of the discussion I wanted to have, is trust is an essential component of any functional society. If you don't trust somebody in your society, in your group, then that's harmful to the whole. And smaller tribes know that, and they take care of that shit. But larger tribes tend to let their people live on the outskirts. They marginalize the people who maybe have mental illness, or maybe people who have committed crimes, and make it worse for them, send you to prison for a small drug conviction. Then you get out and you can't even get a job because you're on probation for a drug conviction for something you didn't even want to be doing. Or, maybe it's just a fluke. You were caught with somebody. Shit happens to people all the time, and we just totally screw our society over, and then we stop trusting each other. Trust is the essential component, the societal component that makes it work, the glue that binds us. And we find trust in community. And in order to find trust in community, you have to speak the language of the community, right? I'm not speaking literal like you can't, live in a community of people who speak a different language and learn that. I was thinking more along the lines of music, because music and art to me are languages. So I think of music as a totally different language that you either, that you can learn to speak, you can learn to play, but you can also learn to respect, admire, and understand. Most people, even if they don't know anything about music, they totally can, get the feeling of what it's trying to convey, emotionally, especially through orchestra music. It's phenomenal, and it takes a long time to really build respect for it, but art and music are a way for community to get together. And because I'm going to the Fish concert this summer at the Gorge Amphitheater, and it's a 3-day show, and I'm really excited about it because we get to camp out for 3 or 4 nights, listen to 3 concerts, hang out in the parking lot, party all night, talk with people. I have a school bus, so we set up the bus with a canopy out the back and speakers, and we just put up these chairs everywhere and beanbag lounge shit, and just chill. And people walk by, we invite them into camp. I like meeting people, and that's the community to me, because we like the same music. It doesn't mean I have to like every fan. It doesn't mean that I like every person that walks by. But music really is a different language that it just helps you escape the societal bullshit. People put on such a fake face out there. But to move on, to segue into making art and music, this is a big one, getting motivated. In the last few days, I felt really good. And as I told my subscribers, I'm going to start drawing and practicing in my guitar. And I played guitar most of my life on and off, but I really want to dedicate myself to at least learn 1 new song a week. So I played a couple songs today. Then I went through Stairway to Heaven, and I wanted to say, I thought about it today. I was like, learning Stairway to Heaven is a great way to introduce you to so many different styles, finger picking, strumming techniques. And I learned it when I was 16, but I played it all the way through today, more or less, without forgetting it. And it's been so long since I've really played it. And it's a great song. And I started thinking, man, I'm so grateful that I learned that language of music when I was younger. And my oldest son, he's 25, and he plays guitar constantly, and he loves the Grateful Dead too, and a lot of the same bands I do. So, you know, I'm grateful for that, I guess. I had to listen to him play, AC/DC for the first 3 years while he was learning, but of course I grew up with that too, and I introduced him to that, so it's probably my own fault. My dad listened to that shit when I was younger, and so I always listened to AC/DC, but connecting on music is a really awesome thing, and like my art, I'm not just music, but I mean, not just playing songs. I've been doing these, like, I've got all these art projects. These are horrible, so I'm going to share them. These are the clouds that I was working on. This one's not so bad, but the color I don't like, the house and everything. And then I was trying to do one in perspective. And for some reason, I got kind of obsessed with churches and stuff. But it got me inspired. I felt like I'm really following through with what I wanted to do. I drew this, I posted this the other day. It's like this Middle Eastern dude. And it's horrible because the eyes are too big. It's all out of proportion. But for some reason I got obsessed with drawing like churches and temples and stuff like that. And so over the next year, I'm hoping to increase my skills like tenfold, be able to just draw from thought. I can draw cats now, cat faces without having to look at a cat face. So I'm just going to work on that for a while, then work on that. And I guess my point here isn't to brag or say, oh, I do art or music, but to say, if you do art or music, or even if you don't, putting yourself into that position where you're just forcing yourself to do it, you can get really into it quickly. And I've had a hard time kind of getting going over the last few months, and it's really helped me immensely. So, see, how much time do I have? I'm at 18 minutes. That's a long video, but that's okay. The last part I wanted to cover was really about drugs and creativity. There's mixed feelings about drugs, using substances. I've been a pot smoker since I was 16, and I quit a couple times, once for a couple years. I was on probation, but when I quit, I said, yeah, it's been nice to be clean and sober or whatever, but I'm not that interested in being limited by I am this person or this person. If I feel like taking a toke, I'll take a toke, or having a beer, I have a beer. And I know when I'm going too far, and I've learned to control myself. And a lot of people around me I've watched self-destruct because they can't just have a beer or two. They drink a ton. And over the years, I've found myself maybe doing that. Holy shit, I drank that much in that short a period of time. It's time to ease back. Or, man, I've been smoking too much weed. Oh, it's time to ease back. Or, way too many nitrous cartridges laying around. I mean, to be brutally honest, the only substances that I have not abused are psychedelics. And when I was 15, I was introduced to LSD. It was the most amazing experience of my life. And I wouldn't say that one was, but maybe some of the, I don't know, some of the early trips were pretty insightful. And it blew my mind wide open. And I was already I would consider myself younger to be another ignorant teenager, but also very open-minded. I didn't have any preconceived notions, or my family wasn't religious, and we didn't even talk about it, so it didn't even come up. And then all of a sudden, I'm thrown into this world of psychedelics, and it showed me what was important. And it's very simple. The same lesson I'm taught every time I do it. Family, friends, connections are the most important things, along with experiences with those people, and living the best life we can. But art and music and sharing these things actually are kind of these languages all their own, and that it doesn't matter what the beginning or the end hold. It doesn't matter what religion you are. You don't need a religion to really marvel at the whole of the world, of the universe. You don't have to argue about the shape of the earth and whether it's flat or round. You don't have to, worry about what might have happened thousands of years ago in the conspiracy realm. All these things are distractions from seeing this true connection with other people that also share the same awe and don't draw conclusions. That's what I mean. Not drawing conclusions about anything. It means the greatest wisdom lies in knowing you know nothing. That stupid old saying from Socrates. It can't beat it. I mean, it's totally true. It's letting go and realizing that, as I said in the beginning, what I think is important news probably don't mean shit to half of you. It's just the world we live in. So, to finish that, drugs and creativity, they can actually enhance our creativity if we use them properly, but it's very unique to each individual. But they can also destroy us. You know, there's one person who always told people, you know, you got to be strong, pull yourself out of your addictions, be able to handle your shit. Like I mentioned Jordan Peterson a while back, and I'm not dissing on the guy, but you know, he's been laid out for a Klonopin addiction for months. He's all messed up, and all of his fans are really supporting him, which I totally respect. I think that's great. But he's totally denying that there's a psychological side to his addiction. And I just found that kind of humorous because, you know, psychology plays just as much of a role as physical addiction. In fact, physical addiction is very minor compared to, you know, us wanting to escape our realities sometimes. And we have to be careful not to get too far out of reality. And nothing's worse than benzodiazepines for that. But alcohol can do the same thing. Cannabis doesn't. It just matters. It depends on how much you consume. And even me, a huge psychedelic advocate, I only take them maybe once every other year. Uh, at least once a year, I'd say, at some event or whatnot. But that's for another subject altogether. I also wanted to cover televangelists and the crazy evangelical side of this world, but I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to get to that in another video. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks to my supporters, my commenters, Patreon peeps. Subscribe and like and all that shit. Peace. Talk to you later.